Hi guys, and welcome back to another review. And this time, the intention was just to review the Kinera IDUN Golden. But in the process of reviewing it and trying out several of my portable deck amps, I ended up trying the new FIO Jade Audio Q11, and so I'll ultimately also be reviewing the Q11 in this little video that I've got for you guys today. Anyway, let's get straight into it. The IDUN Golden has been around now for a while. I decided to review it, and I want to thank Kinera for having been kind enough to having supplied me with this review unit. And let me just make it perfectly clear that that doesn't mean that I am now obliged to say things to satisfy the powers that be. No, I will, as always, give my honest review, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give my honest opinion on what the Kinera IDUN Golden is all about. It's a 1+2 IEM. Let me just quickly show you the box. It comes in the usual Kinera presentation, this hexagonal box, and in that aspect, I think Kinera really has been kind of in the forefront of how to present, how to sell in terms of presentation their products. And then as well, when you actually look at the product itself, visually they are always stunning, and the IDUN Golden is no exception. So it comes in this box. Once you open it up, it brings this kind of little booklet where it goes through the whole thing, explaining everything about it, who participated, who was responsible for the design of the faceplates. I believe it was a lady called Cynthia, and they actually now just confirm, just to make sure. And the reason why I'm mentioning her is I just want to say that exactly, Cynthia, that's one talented young lady. Let me just make that perfectly clear. Anyway, as for the accessories, it brings a 6.35 adapter, loads of tips, some foams, some white bores over here. Okay, the carrying case comes over there. I'll show it to you now in a second. Alright, let me just put this away so that we have a little bit more space. This is the carrying case. Alright, a little bit on the small side, and fitting all of the fitting the IEM with the cable in there is a little bit of a tight fit. I'm not gonna deny. Nice finish off on the inside. The cable is a modular cable. I've actually got the 4.4 termination on there. This is the 3.5. Yet another a set of tips. Okay, there we go. I've left these ones here on purpose, and the cleaning tool as well over there. Anyway, that's the accessories. More than satisfactory, more than within reason for the price of that's being asked for the IDUN Golden. 169, 179, depends where you get it from. But for the price, in terms of its accessories, in terms of its packaging, how it's presented to us, and the IEMs themselves, everything is just top marks. The cable is a very nice cable, actually. Doesn't no tangling, no nothing. Modular, as I mentioned, very nice cable, actually. I had absolutely no need to swap it out. And then the IEMs themselves. I'm using the foams, as you can see. Okay. I mean, they are stunning, really. You can question whether or not it's questionable whether or not you like the design of the faceplates or anything. I think they are absolutely stunning. All hand painted. I mean, really nice. Fit is flawless. There's nothing that I can point out with regards to the fit. Absolutely flawless. And inside it's got a 7mm dynamic driver, and then it's got two knowles BAs. One of them, I believe, is a custom one. I'm not sure, so don't take that with a grain of salt. All right. For the driver count, the shell is a little bit on the big side, but you know what? It's not heavy. It fits beautifully in my ears. It isolates perfectly. So no complaints, really. I'm sure this could have been done in a smaller package, because it's like I said, it's a 7mm driver. But it is what it is, and it's fine, it's perfect. No, I'm not complaining. I'm just bringing that attention to that detail. I guess that covers the hardware side of things. Let's talk about what we want to know, which is the sound. And I mean, like I said, the IDUN has been around for a while. This is actually the second version. I never heard the first, so I can't talk about the first one. I don't know nothing about it. But this is the second version, and the second version, from what I was able to ascertain from one or two reviews that I just read, just to make sure that what I was thinking or what I was hearing kind of went along, or not went along. I just wanted to know what was the opinion of other fellow reviewers and other people that have got the IDUN. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not that that's going to influence what I think of it. So, I always like doing this. So I started listening to it, and then straight away certain IEMs started coming to my mind. The IEMs I selected are, as usual and as always, not always, sometimes I do use some odd IEMs to compare, but in this particular case they are all 1+2s. Okay. The first one is the XINHS Acros Erasmus, well, my own collab. The reason why I have it here, it's because it's got switches that allow it to have two tuning modes. One of the tuning modes, which is with the switches all up, makes it really neutral. But still maintaining a good balance, so you could end up saying it's a neutral balance, but really flat across the whole range. And there were things of that setting that reminded me of the IDUN, or rather the IDUN had things that reminded me of the Erasmus in that setting. The second IEM that I've got here is an IEM which is not very well known, 7th Acoustic Stargazer. It's a 1+2, and it's a pity that it comes, from, or it's not easily accessible. Let's put it that way. It is a fantastic hybrid, absolutely amazing. And when you go through so many IEMs and you have so many IEMs, you end up inevitably not listening to them. And when I started doing this review, and preparing for this review rather, I picked it up, I went and fetched it, especially because the price is about the same, 170, 180, between 170 and $180. And I was just again blown away. It is an absolutely amazing IEM, and I just wish that 7th Acoustics could do something with regards to getting their products a little bit more known, because trust me, people, they know what they're doing. The Stargazer is a fantastic hybrid. End of story. The other one is the C Audio Yume 2, and again, fantastic, an absolute beast of an IEM that I know that its biggest obstacle for it to have not been as successful as it could have been was the fact that it was a little bit delayed in its launch. If it hadn't been so delayed, I am sure that the C Audio Yume 2 would have been an absolute market killer. That one costs around $199, but I've seen it as low as $149. Okay, so again, I thought it makes sense to compare it with the IDUN. Oh, let me just mention that the Erasmus is no longer available, but there's something on the pipeline. Anyway, let's carry on. What is then the sound of the IDUN like? It's a sound that the moment you put it on, you listen, you feel straight away that you are listening to a good IEM. That's very obvious. You're not listening to something which is not well tuned or not well put together. You notice straight away that it's a well tuned IEM, but it's an IEM that has got a very specific sound, which is vivid, which is gently bright, which is very alive, very detailed, very clinical, and straight away that means that you must approach, at least for me, I must approach the rest of this opinion giving about it in a manner that is open towards that type of sound signature. Okay, personally, I like kind of a harmonish tune. That's my preference. You can say, but that's a boring preference. Well, it's my preference. But I think I have an ability to listen to other tuning styles and to also get what is being tried to be offered from them. Very few times have I listened to an IEM tuned in a different manner to that one that is my preferred one, and have I said, no, I didn't get this, this is absolute nonsense, doesn't make sense. Very few times. Very few times. I think one of the few times that happened was with the Tanstrom, the Ola, where I was kind of, okay, one thing is neutral, one thing is more than neutral, is thin, and I'm talking, of course, about the bass, because neutral in my books means nothing has been added. It's there, it's present, it's giving the bass that it should be giving, but it's there. And then obviously warm, that's given a little bit more, and then V, yes, you've got a lot of bass boost and so on and so forth. The Ola is thin. I mean, it cuts the bass. For me, that is not being true to that. That's not going to be true to the music that will be listened to it. At least in my opinion. You can again argue, and I'm a defender of that. But it depends on how it sounds to you. It sounds good. Fair enough. That's fine. I'm totally for that. But if a music was recorded with having a certain amount of bass, mids, and highs, and an IEM goes and adds too much to it, that's bad. Especially if it does it in a bad way, and if it also detracts from that, that's bad as well. If it detracts too much, and that's the case. I mean, I've heard plenty IEMs which are emphasized on the bass, but it's so well done, and it's perfect. I mean, the case of those IEMs, for example, I can give a few examples. Some of the Penon models and some of the ISN models are like that, but the bass is so good, it's just absolutely a pleasure to listen to this supposedly colored sound, supposedly boosted sound, but it's nice. And I've also listened to other examples which is absolute, no. The Tanstrom was the opposite. Anyway, enough of that. So that's what you notice. You notice it's a highly clinical sound. It's very, very vivid, very, very alive, very detailed. And so, okay, so I started listening to it, and let's see what it's about. Okay, with regards to the bass. The bass is more heard than felt. And what do I mean by this? It's a soft bass, has good resolution, it's got good texture, so it's a quality bass. Excuse me, guys. It's a quality bass, but it needs a little bit more weight, and it needs a little bit more weight to confer to at least my music style, my songs that I listen to. And I'll just quickly. There we go. Some of the songs that I like listening to, and that they've got that that bass that complements the song. Control You by Movement. No. The Lady's Not Amused from Jeff Cascaro. There's a nice kick drum there. It does it enough, but personally I like it a little bit more. Pacific from Crankoff, that's electronic music. Surprisingly, it actually did it quite well. That's one of the songs that I was very surprised with. That, and for example, Grace, Real People. I was absolutely amazed at how dynamic the mid bass was actually on here, because there's not a lot of sub bass, but the mid bass on occasions does come through and does show a certain aliveness to it, okay, and an ability to keep up with the mids and the highs, because the mids and the highs are definitely at the start of the show here. That's it. The bass takes third place in all of this, and it's so laid back, it's so relaxed that it can sometimes sound thin. It can sometimes sound a little bit lacking for me at least. Okay, but that doesn't mean that there won't be people that will appreciate it for what it is, because that's the thing. Yeah, this is an IEM that will be perfect for a person that likes loads of detail, loads of clarity, vocals, likes listening to a lot of jazz, likes listening to a lot of classic music, and doesn't really like, or is not a fan of having this present bass in a prominent manner. Again, don't forget, it's a 7mm driver, so we can't exactly expect miracles, but there are 7mm drivers, Sennheiser being an example of that do deliver the goods. So the bass, as I said, a little bit on the thin side. It's a quality bass. There's nothing wrong with the quality, but the quantity is a little bit on the low side. Again, that's the premise of this tune, so take it for what it is. The mids and the highs, as I mentioned, those are the stars of the show. The mids are absolutely amazing, really, nothing to be said. However, they are also unforgiving, and depending on the recording and depending on the song, that unforgiveness of it can make certain songs sound just a little bit on the hot side. It can be a little bit too forward, a little bit on too sharp. It didn't at any point get to the point where I said, no, this is too, no, but it's there. So what happens is you end up not turning up the volume as much, I would say. Okay. But it's as I said, but it's a mid presentation that's always very energetic, very analytical. Great for the people that like that kind of sound. I'm guessing, I didn't dislike it. I don't dislike it, and as I've mentioned before, I tried to listen to it as much as possible for what was being tried to give us. Treble, that part of the spectrum is really good. That part of the spectrum has really been well done. Micro details like you wouldn't believe. Really, that's the part, if I have to choose an area of the presentation that I really surprised me, really liked, treble, fantastic, and a close second, the mids. The only part here that I wish just a little bit more, the bass. But again, like I said, this was tuned to be well, at least in my opinion, a kind of a reference neutral, kind of an IEM that can set the standard by which you then can compare other things. Actually, it's actually funny because I've had the IDUN now for a couple of weeks, and I've been listening to it on and off and so on and so forth. And it's funny, I quite often go to it when I want to kind of reset my ears, if that makes any sense. And it actually helps me reset my ears. You could argue, oh, but being so forward in the mids and the highs, want that. Funny enough, no, it actually resets my ears quite nicely. I listen to it, and then when I go and pick up on another IEM, I can straight away kind of gauge it where it stands, and I like it. I like this. I particularly like the IDUN for that characteristic. As for then the technical capabilities, as I just mentioned, micro details, macro details, fantastic. Soundstage, I would say decent depth and height, and width. For some reason, the IDUN sounds very close to you, well, very close to me. There isn't that kind of 3D effect that you get, for example, let's say on the Olina, okay, or that you get on a planar like an S12. It just sounds a little bit close. It didn't bug me, it didn't bother me, but that 3D effect that sometimes is nice to have, it's not its strong point. Having said that, imaging actually is quite good, and I was quite easily able to pick positioning, and unless the song was a busy song. If the song was a little bit busy, then the imaging kind of suffered. I can't really explain why, but that was basically what I was hearing. Anyway, as a kind of I was forgetting, the tonality. The tonality, as I mentioned, is a little bit it's going to be a little bit on the brighter side, and being an analytical IEM, there's a certain amount of warmness that sometimes is missing from certain instruments. Guitars are really well done, but for example, that kick drum, the tonality and the timbre is not always spot on. It's not offensive, it didn't bug me, but it's not always spot on. Overall, what can I then say about the IDUN? It's a very good sounding IEM, okay? Very, very niche specific. It's catered for a specific crowd of people. It's not an IEM that will please everybody. As I mentioned, it's an IEM that will do well with jazz and classical. It will struggle a little bit with EDM. It will struggle a little bit with pop. It will struggle a little bit with rock. But in the middle of that EDM and pop and rock songs that are not the genres which are ideal for it, there are the occasional songs that it does do well, and as I mentioned, the House of Groove from Eugene Groove, which is a song that I like listening to. It didn't really shine there, but straight away on Grace, like I mentioned earlier, it was fine. Sweat from JK, the JK revive from Danny Crane. It lacked a little bit of that mid-bass impact of the kick drum, but on the other hand, if for example I listened to 80s from Bruno Mueller, it was acceptable. It was good. So it's a mix. Another song that I actually was quite surprised that it did it quite well was Puerto Banús by Paul Hardcastle. It did it better than what I was expecting, especially considering that the bass is, for the most part, on the thinner side. I was surprised. It actually played it quite well. This list of songs I'll actually post it on the review, so you guys, if you want to go through it and compare it with your IEMs, if you have any of these and so on, it will be available on the review. Compared then to the rest of the IEMs that I have here. Definitely this one will be the most analytical one. This one will definitely be the one that's the most detailed. The one that will have that part covered the best. However, it loses out to any of the three over there in terms of that bass quantity, not the quality, that is required to, at least in my playlist, complement those songs ideally. So it does perfectly well when the songs are not very bass heavy, or don't have any bass at all. For example, let's see. If I was listening to, for example, A Kiss to Build a Dream on by Amber Rubarth, perfect. I mean, it does it as good as any of those, if maybe not even better. If I was listening to, let's say, Forbidden Fruit from Candace Springs, again the same situation, does it perfectly. That's its element. With those three, it's okay. But with the rest, if you want a little bit more of versatility in your sound, if you want a little bit more liveliness in your sound, in terms of being capable of playing more genres, then that's not the ideal IEM for you. Okay. The Erasmus, from the feedback I was able to get from people, is a fantastic, balanced, neutral IEM, you could call it. Capable of playing basically everything very well, and very, very few occasions, at least the feedback that I got, were people saying that it would need a little bit more bass, or it would need a little bit more treble. The mids are also the star of the show there, and they are very well complemented on both ends. Mids and bass, especially the bass as well, it's been actually quite well done. The Stargazer is an absolute pleasure to listen to. I mean, sub bass, mid bass impact, vocals, male and female, The timbre and tonality, absolutely top notch. Fantastic IEM. Seriously, fantastic IEM. Nothing to detract from it. Yume, basically the same as the Stargazer. Fantastic. There's really nothing that you can falter on the Yume. The Yume compared to the IDUN, I think is the one of these three that comes closest and actually comes close and matches the IDUN's ability to be detailed, really detailed. Definitely the Yume. So this isn't really this one is better, that one is worse. No, because they are more of a side grade to this than really being superior or not. They have been tailored for different specific crowd of people. They have been all tailored to satisfy a wider variety of people, and this one is very much genre focused. So there you have it, guys. The IDUN, if you have the opportunity to listen to it. As always, don't just go out and buy and believe me for what I'm saying. If on the other hand what I've said kind of ticks the right boxes for you, then go ahead and get it. That's it, period. Anyway, I'll show you the graphs, and part 2 of this review will be mostly on the Fire. All right, take care. Bye bye. Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section of the Kinera IDUN review. This is the graph of the Kinera IDUN, well, at least the one that I have. As I mentioned in the review, neutrally space. I mean, it can get more neutral than this. Very gradual pinna gain, kind of a 2-step way, and then some energy there at the 6, 7, 8K area, and then some extension past 10K. Although this extension doesn't really translate to that 3D-ness that usually this can be an indicator of. Anyway, first graph, let's put the Yume 2. There we go. I've centered all the graphs at 500 Hertz. And straight away, although you can see a certain kind of similarity in terms of their neutrality, the fact that the IDUN uses a 7mm driver does confer this whole upper mid and treble area way more energy than what the graph would indicate. And of course the Yume has got loads more bass than what you would see here as a perceived difference. There's absolutely no comparison. The Yume does have more of that 3D-ness, and it is definitely IEM. As I mentioned, it does come closest to giving that sensation of that detail that you get from the IDUN. Okay, let's show now the 7th acoustics. Definitely way more sub-bass, as you can see, and then the rest, although similar in terms of its overall energy, apparently the fact that you have got way more bass energy confers a completely different tonality to this whole area here of the mids, upper mids, and treble. Just out of curiosity, so that you guys can see something here which is actually quite interesting, comparing the 7th acoustics with the Yume 2, you can see how similar they are, and the reason why they actually are sounding so amazing. Really, honestly, they really sound really good. Both of them, they really sound very good, and I think that the main reason for that is that the way that the bass has been done, more sub bass on one, a little bit less on the other, but the way the sub bass has been done and how it glides into the mids, it just confers the whole of the treble, of the mids and the treble area, a very nice tonality and timbre, and just completes it a very nice way, which is something that, again, as I'll just put here the IDUN. The IDUN actually does have a lot of that same kind of overall energy in the mids and treble and so on and so forth as the other two. It just doesn't have that energy there in the bass, and that's why it then sounds a little bit more thin. But again, this was the design. The design was supposed to be this. The design was supposed to be an IEM that was going to be very detailed in the mids and in the highs, very analytical, very full of micro details and so on and so forth. So let's take that one out. And then just finally the comparison with the Acros Erasmus in the 1-1 setting, which is the leaner setting. And again, graphically at least, you see a lot of similarities. You would even assume that the bass would be the same, and no, the bass of the Acros is a lot more, of the Erasmus is a lot more dynamic, a lot more full and capable. Yes, there isn't as much treble output. No, the Erasmus, that's not its forte, but it does have a very good mid-range. Its mids and its upper mids are very well executed. Just again, for the sake of comparison, I'm just going to show you the normal, the setting that I usually like, which, as you can see, boosts up the bass a little bit, and just a little more again, NG in the mids and in the highs. And this particular setting like that, just for the sake of comparison, where is it? Here we go. Just change the color. I'm just going to change the color of the Yume so we can actually see it a little bit better. Let's make the Yume red. Very similar way that the bass is done in one and the other, and the reality is when you actually listen to the Erasmus, you do notice a lot of similarities in the way that the bass is done between the two of them. But of course, the implementation of better BAs does confer the Yume a more polished finish in the mids and in the highs. It's not going to deny. Although again, not wanting to sound biased, the Erasmus does hold its own quite well. Anyway, guys, this has been the review of the IDUN. As I mentioned, I think it's a very interesting IEM for those that are looking for loads of detail, not much bass energy, but that want loads of detail, loads of micro details, love jazz and classical. This is the perfect IEM for you. And as always, any questions you might ask, please ask, and I'll do my best to reply as quickly as possible. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.